A college degree is actually a lot more valuable today, but not in the way you think.
Okay.
I think it's valuable for the colleges, not necessarily the actual students themselves.
Either you're going to succeed or you're going to learn. The college degree it's not exactly going to open the door for you, but it's certainly going to grease the hinges. We have more information in our back pockets with our phones than existed 80 years ago.
The importance of you being your own self is massively more important than any time in human history.
I'm not going to fall in line. I'm going to do something that hasn't been done before. And if I fail, I fail. Okay. But at least I put myself out there. And I think young people are waking up to that. And I think you're going to see a whole new field of educational materials and companies and products trying to meet the need of young people that are craving something more than they can find in a typical college. Immerse yourself in what's difficult and do not let an expensive institution stop you from doing it.
What's up, everyone? Guys, we are here with another episode. We have Cannon that is joining us today. Cannon, this first time on a pod. How are you feeling?
Feeling great, man. Happy to be here.
Dude, come on.
Excited to talk about some fiery stuff today.
Dude, some lies propagated by big academia.
That's
the
right,
college
baby.
regime, baby. We're going to tackle them.
Take it down.
Yeah. So today we're actually going to be diving in to whether or not you should pursue a 4-year degree or just launch yourself in the real world.
Yep.
And I think there is this lie that society tells us that, hey, you have to go do this traditional educational process, which isn't really even traditional. That's the ironic thing. It's really only like 6 years old.
It's very young.
And it's young tradition.
Yeah.
And it's like rooted in, massive amount of debt. And that's what we talked about last episode. So let's just go right into it and hammer of like why kids should actually just go and, just do it.
Yeah, man. So today should be a lot of fun. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to break down the two options, which one is you go to this traditional college education, you fall in line, you follow, what everyone else is doing.
Get in debt.
Don't
accumulate anything.
And then option two is, okay, you say, screw all that. I don't want to mess with that. I'm just going to go straight to work. Forget about college education. I'm going to jump into a field. And I'm going to apply myself there. And so those are sort of the two options, right? Quote unquote. And we're going to talk about of those two options, which is better. And is there a third option? So it should be a lot of fun. We're going to get a lot of statistics, a lot of quotes. It should be pretty analytical today. But I think our viewers are going to learn a lot and hopefully come away having their mindset very challenged on the subject.
So like y'all have to get like a notepad or take notes.
Yeah. Today's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We're going to learn a lot.
Use an AI note taker. That's what I do.
There we go. That's what Harrison does. Yeah. You always have it on our Zoom calls. It's really annoying. Okay. So first question I want to talk about with you, Harrison. Do you think, this is sort of something that we can go back and forth on, but how do you think the value of college is holding up right now? Like, let's say that someone's trying to sell something 50 years ago and it's super valuable, it's hot, but nowadays maybe it's not so much, or maybe it's more valuable, maybe it's more of a hot commodity. Talk to me about that.
So I think a college degree is actually a lot more valuable today, but not in the way you think.
Okay.
Right? I think it's valuable for the colleges, not necessarily the actual students themselves, right? You have, massive increase in prices. We talked about this last time, about 4.2 higher the rate of the CPI, which is basically a number of showing how much goods and services have
Right.
have
Yeah,
raised.
it's been going up 4 times the rate of inflation.
So, I think that for the colleges, absolutely. It is an extremely valuable commodity.
Good
that
money
they're making.
grab.
Yeah, exactly. They're making a ton of money. The endowments are growing and yeah, absolutely. In terms of what the market says, I think it's an interesting statistic we were talking about before the pod is that 42% of people in the job market are actually underemployed, meaning that they go and get a degree. They get a job that they actually don't really need a degree for.
So we're saying 40% of people that are working out of college have degrees that they didn't need a degree. Have jobs that they didn't need a degree for.
Imagine how stupid that is, right? It's like I would go waste my time, right? I go waste my money. And then I go to a job.
Right, I'm a barista.
Yeah, and then you're a barista.
With a degree in poli-sci, right?
Exactly. It's like, yes. I'm a poli-sci major, but I can make a good latte, right? It's just like, dude, come on. Like, do you want to fall into that crowd or do you want to go build something? That was my story, right? I was 16, I was fed up and I was like, I just want to go do something. And that's what I did.
You just want to go do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of people sort of empathize with that. They want to do something. They want to feel like they're having impact. How do you deal with a lot of people say, oh, I want to go do something, but I should really be smart and I should prepare myself so that I can go do something later. A lot of people think it's kind of a one or the other. Let's dive into that. I'd love to give you the mic and then I'll share some on it.
I think if that you're competent and you want to work hard, people see that and they appreciate that. Like here at Eclipse, we love hiring young people that are really ambitious and really hardworking and are coachable, right?
Yeah.
So if you're coachable, you're able to do, kind of maybe the dirty work or, just go do stuff that might not be fun. I think that a lot of employers or a lot of people that, are industry experts love seeing that. And so whatever that may be, I think if you go, dive in, go get an internship, go work for free, go even dust the corners of an office, right?
Yeah.
I think you can learn so much, but not only that, that will build the relationship and the connections within whatever field you want to do to really make an impact and get an early start. And early starts, as we've talked about so much, are so advantage.
Yeah.
Huge advantage.
I think what you're saying is super obvious. It's that if you can insert yourself into a place where a lot of work is being done, where knowledge is being thrown around, you're going to pick it up naturally, right? It's just the way we are. It's the way we learn to walk. It's the way we learn to talk. Why shouldn't it be the way we learn to work?
Exactly. It's not a complicated thing, right? I think we overcomplicate it. I think we're like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? It's like, okay, if I want to go into real estate, right? Go on like meetup.com, go see where all the real estate investors are going and meeting and going to like a cocktail. Go to that. And people look at you and they'll say, wait a second, you're like 16, 17, 8. What are you doing here? Right? And they're like, then you present yourself, right? Find a good tagline for yourself. Say, hi, my name is so-and-so. And I really want to go do this. Why? Because I'm really passionate about it. This is why I want to do this.
Yeah.
Sell yourself, be hardworking, be genuine. Don't be cocky and arrogant. And people really, really enjoy that. And that's like my thing I tell every young person is like, okay, just go do it.
Yeah.
And if you fail, great. You're 16.
Right.
Go try again.
Either you're going to succeed or you're going to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's really profound. So let's imagine that you're, a 16, 17, 18-year-old and you're like, hey, I just really want to go get out there. I want to get in the workforce. Is having a degree going to be an asset to you? In that instance, let's say you're going up to the head of a corporation or even a lower level manager and you're saying, hey, I'm young. I don't have a ton of experience, but I've got a lot of work ethic. I'd love to get a starting position here. Do you think having a college diploma to show to them is going to open more doors for you or not?
I think it just depends, specifically what job you want to do. I think that unfortunately there are some jobs out there with a degree requirement. I actually had an interesting example. I started on the corporate development team of a healthcare company, and I actually didn't have my degree yet. And I was, in school, in college, and I was able to, actually kind of break in and still do, the typical growth stuff you would do at a big healthcare company, growth, like growing the company, not gross, like icky. Just want to make sure,
right?
Yeah, make sure. I don't know how that would sound on the pod. But yeah, I think that for some people it does matter, unfortunately, that they need a degree.
Yeah. A degree definitely is gonna,
and it makes sense. Like if you're a doctor, like I would, much prefer you go to medical school before you cut me open.
Yeah.
Lawyers, I could argue that ChatGPT could probably out lawyer you, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. I think a good way to say it is that the college degree it's not exactly going to open the door for you, but it's certainly going to grease the hinges, right? It's definitely going to make it easier. It's gonna give you more credibility, but at the end of the day, you have to prove yourself in a tangible way, not a piece of paper
and be
way.
Different, right? Like, what does every kid do, or what do most high school graduates do? They go on to this 4-year program, and if I'm hiring a guy and I see a 18-year-old that is maybe started college early, 2 years through, they're said, hey, I can work for you full time and still get my degree done. I'm gonna be like, I like that guy, right? I'm just naturally, I'm going to be like, wait a second, this guy is doing what?
Yeah.
Well, he's in school.
Right. And it's different. It's different. And it kind of breaks the mold and people like that.
And it's just like, I think people are afraid to be different, but coming from an employer perspective, I love seeing people that are different. They look at problems differently, right? They can solve problems and look at problems in ways I probably wouldn't see the same way, right? And so I think for a company value, having people that are ambitious and hungry enough to do an alternative path and still, get those credentialings for some of those occupations that need a degree is so valuable and so awesome. And I would prefer any ambitious young person that is in a position or wants to do a position where a degree would help, go do it a different way and go work full time while you're doing it. And trust me, that's going to open so many doors. you're going to get you're going to get ahead of your peers so much faster.
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying. I think that that's really wise. So what you're saying is basically having a degree is valuable, and that's good, right? But it's honestly, you're really judged by how hard you can work and how much you can be unique and put yourself out there. But Harrison, what I'd love to hear from you on, if this is the truth, if the truth is that, hey, if you work hard and if you put yourself out there, that's really what you need, but a degree is going to help. What are the lies that students are being fed, right? What's the falsehood? What's the kind of the narrative that sort of big education or just our culture is pushing onto students that makes them slow themselves down?
Well, I think it induces kids to be passive. When we're 18 to 22, it's the most energetic time of our lives. We have the capacity to take on a bunch of information, actually process it. Sleep is very important, but you can pull an all-nighter and you'll feel fine. And I think it was like someone like Steve Jobs. He said something along the lines of, college is really slow, right? The classroom slows you down, and the real world is a lot faster, and it speeds you up, right? And I think for a lot of young people, like there's this term is called drinking out of a fire hydrant.
Yeah,
and it is so much, it's so much more easier to do when you're in that kind of that age demographic where you can drink out of a fire hydrant, you can push yourselves. And, you could probably talk about the neurochemistry of, the science actually behind that. Of how
neuroplasticity. When you're young, you can learn so fast.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, like, why aren't you using that to your advantage if you're 18 to 22?
Right. So the lies are what? What are these people being told? I think I can maybe sort of try and answer this. I think that they're being told that there's one way to learn, and it's in a classroom. And that's just not true. You know? A lot of people are like, oh, hey, do you want to go get a menial job or do you want to learn? That's no longer the two options, okay? Learning can happen in so many ways, and it's incredibly fluid and available now like it never has been before, right? I mean, we have more information in our back pockets with our phones than existed 80 years ago, seriously. And so I think that there's a lot of a premium on the ability to apply that knowledge in a real hard, concrete way, more than there is a premium on just having access to that knowledge. This is why I think college is outdated, because at colleges, the value is it's a lot of sort of centralized data. They've got a big library. They have professors that have taught for 60 years. And so a lot of information has accumulated there. But now with sort of the ubiquitous nature of the internet, that information is everywhere. And so now the value that you get, that you learn at college is hopefully to apply yourself. It's to manage your time. It's to learn how to take a lot of information and sort it well. And in my opinion, that can happen anywhere now. It's no longer limited to a university.
And it's a great equalizer, right? It quite literally equals a playing field for everyone. And that's something that I totally agree with, is that the internet in a lot of ways is an equalizer. It is ubiquitous. I can get information. I can learn anything anywhere, right? I had this idea that I wanted to build like an RV, like a travel van for Eclipse. And you can just learn how to build on YouTube. Yeah. Like I don't need to go to like some like woodworking class. I can just learn. How many other examples? Like think about if I want to go build a financial model. Okay, I can just go learn that on YouTube, right? If I want to learn to code and build software, great. Go to YouTube.
All that data is available to you.
And it's very easy to access. And so that's another lie too, is like I think you have to get credentialed or learn in a classroom, like you said, and you have to have some stamp, right, from some professor that is like quote unquote done it before. But have they? Some of them haven't. They've been in academia all their lives.
That's true. So this is super interesting. I think we're talking a lot about like corporate jobs, like finance and real estate. Let's talk a little bit about the creatives.
Absolutely.
So people who are wanting to go into music, right, or film or art or digital creative stuff. How do you think degrees provide value for them? And are there any cases where a degree might actually make them worse at their job than better?
Yeah. So going back to, how we think that colleges induce kids to be passive, I think it also conforms them to a lot of ways. So, and a lot of times I think that some degrees for some creative people, right, people wanting to go into the creative space can actually suck their individualism out of them, make them less individual, which is funny. It's like college is this place where you go and express yourselves and you have the freedom of thought, the freedom of the pursuit of, academic integrity and all these terms they like to throw around. But it's like, wait a second, you look at a lot of art students, it's something you're passionate about. You can speak, much better than I can. But how many of these, whether they want to go into photography, into marketing, right, into some animation, it's how many of those people come out looking the same?
Yeah, and I think that's really big there, because a lot of times the value in being a creative is that you have a specific voice, right?
Absolutely.
You have something that no one else can do. And the problem with education, with college education, is that you have one teacher teaching 50 students. And guess what? He's going to teach them all the same thing, right? But every one of those 50 students has an individual style. They have a voice, they have a message. And that cannot be communicated with the modern college system. College it's so standard. There's no personalization. There's no thought that goes into, hey, who's the student? Not what are they? Who are they? And how can we meet their needs? And I think this is why college needs a massive renovation, because it's absolutely failing people that want to be creative. It's failing people that want to do something even slightly different than what's already being done, because college doesn't know how to teach that.
Absolutely. There's a huge music school where I near where I live, and it's like maybe one of the most premium music schools in all of the world. And I can't tell you how many students I've heard that have come out of that school, and they all sound the exact same. All their music sounds the same.
Right.
Same.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, like,
it's
like, okay, like to your point, that conformity is really real. And I think that we're entering into, a season, right, of human history where the importance of individualism, the importance of you being your own self, is massively more important than any time in human history. And I think that's only going to be, only as the commoditization of a lot of, jobs, as things get automated, as sort of your roles where, you're an accountant or a lawyer, all these things, and you have these massive, innovations in technology that come and create that, create people to be a lot more efficient. I think, the really thing society needs to shift on is, preface people and speak life into them in their individualism. And if we don't really do a good job of that, and academia doesn't do a good job of that, I really see that the world might turn into a bunch of like dead robots where everyone is like kind of similar.
Yeah, falling in line.
Exactly.
And kind of exactly.
And so like a lot of people look at a lot of the technology right now, and you could talk about AI or whatever it may be. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to do all these things. We're all going to turn into like dead robots. I'm like, no, you're going to turn into a more individual person, right? You're going to be able to differentiate, like you're going to be
more differentiated.
Yeah, exactly. Than your peers.
But I think that doesn't happen accidentally. That happens intentionally.
No, and
I think that the duty falls upon young people like us to look at the world that's becoming kind of monotonous and homogenous and go, no, I'm going to be different. I'm not going to fall in line. I'm going to do something that hasn't been done before. And if I fail, I fail. Okay. But at least I put myself out there. How do we as young people, how do we stay unique? How do we keep that sort of thread of we're not doing things that our parents did, our grandparents did? Not that those are necessarily wrong, but they just don't fit this time. How do we stay fresh?
I think don't be afraid to be yourself. A lot of people are so scared of being themselves. I think that's why so many kids make the stupid decision to go to go get a 4-year degree they don't need, right? If I'm not willing to be myself, I'm going to follow the cohort, right?
Yep.
And if I'm going to go be average, I'm going to get average results. Imagine telling that, just hear me out. Imagine telling your future children, right? Or a kid, someone you're pouring into, right? Someone that has meaning in your life, go be average.
Wow. Yeah.
No one says
no
that,
one
right?
likes that.
But yet that is like, to not be yourself is kind of in a root saying that I'm going to go be average. And average people, like I just said, get average results. And I don't like average results. I don't like average people. Like they're just boring.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So how much do you think a college degree has changed? Like the actual education, the actual process of getting a degree. How much has it changed in the past 60 years?
So I don't think the degrees are really different right now for a lot of people. I know that wasn't really the question, but how many kids go to McGraw-Hill and then go and consume the exact same content, whether they go to a state school or some preppy Ivy school, right? It's all the same. In terms of how much it's changed and different, I guess like technology has changed how we access that information. But I would actually say it's changed in the sense that it's dumbed down a lot. The federal government actually came in and set kind of standards on what we teach in colleges. And kind of the preface of that is to, how like we talked about how mass enrollment happened in the 60s, well, the content actually kind of decreased in a lot of ways. Why? Because, graduation rates have to stay high. Universities want their graduation rates to stay high. If I have a 40% acceptance rate, but only like 60 people graduate, why would I want to go to that university?
Right. Yeah. This is something that scares me about modern college is colleges are so obsessed with keeping their institution profitable that they never think about providing their students with the opportunity to fail.
Well, student retention, that is the word that gets thrown out a lot, is like, how much are we retaining our students?
Yeah. They're so obsessed with
Yeah.
they're so obsessed with keeping their people happy, keeping them engaged, that they don't actually take the time to push them.
Yeah.
And they don't force them to do things that are uncomfortable, way outside of their comfort zone. I'm not talking a slight, push to do something that's a little bit uncomfortable. I'm talking really put yourself out there, take a risk, give yourself the opportunity to fail. This is what colleges are afraid to do.
But this is what colleges should do, though. That's like the frustrating thing.
Exactly, right. This is what college ought to be. It should be the time of your life where you've gotten out of your standardized high school. Now go diversify. Go be something new. And if it doesn't work, okay, you have another opportunity. You're only 19.
Exactly. Right? College should be the place where I go learn, whether through success or failure, how to actually go do what I want to do. And I totally agree. The modern college system, in a lot of ways, tells kids don't go avert all kind of risk. Don't take risks.
Totally risk
averse. It's like, dude, we're young. Let's go take the biggest risk of our lives. And here's the thing: to build something, right? And I feel like I can speak on this a little bit. To build something extremely crazy and sounds hard and sounds like I'm going to go build a rocket and go shoot it up into outer space, or I'm going to go build, some back office enterprise tech, or go build a coffee stand, right? All those things sound a little bit different from a difficulty perspective. But then you learn, once you actually get your feet wet, of like starting something, no matter how crazy it sounds, is hard, right? And does require risk. And so the crazier the idea, like the first 3 years of building something is going to be really, really hard. Go do that. Go do something crazy. If you want to be the first guy to go mine an asteroid, just go learn how to do that, right?
Exactly.
And how many people in academia can teach you how to mine asteroids?
No one.
I don't think
they haven't done it.
They haven't done it, right?
And so I think this is really big, is that college should not just be people who have done something for a long time, teaching students what they know. It should be people who are great learners, showing young people how to learn. Because if you can achieve the power of learning, and this sounds so cliche, but it's so true. If you can learn how to learn, okay, you can learn anything. You can be capable of anything.
And having,
go ahead.
No, and having the support system to say that, okay, like, you don't know something, go figure it out. We are here to support you and be alongside of whatever venture that you're going into, whatever problem you want to solve. We just want to be here and we want to see you succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think schools shouldn't get in the way of students having the freedom to educate themselves. There's a quote by Mark Twain that I love. And I think he goes, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. And it's like, whoa, how profound is that? He knew the difference between, filling out tests and completing assignments and actually educating yourself, grasping knowledge and applying it and filling your mind with it. Those are not necessarily always the same thing. And I think young people are waking up to that. And I think you're going to see a whole new field of educational materials and companies and products trying to meet the need of young people that are craving something more than they can find in the typical college system.
So how do you learn? How do young people learn?
Yeah, great question. How do young people learn? I'll give a little bit of an example. So a few years ago, I decided I wanted to learn how to speak Spanish. And it was a super difficult task. Obviously, the modern English speaker knows about 20,000 words, and the modern Spanish speaker is between, I don't know the exact number, but it's several thousand. It's close to 20,000. And so that's a big task to try and acclimate to all those new words and learn how to use them. Anyone who studied a foreign language can attest it's a difficult task. And so I started thinking, I could either sign up for a college course on Spanish, study it for several years, or I could go do it my way. And my way was every night before bed, I would spend 20 minutes watching TV shows in Spanish. And then if I saw a word I didn't know, I'd look it up. And I forced myself to acclimate. Rather than starting with the easiest words, rather than watching, baby shows, I jumped in with full adult TV shows where they were using hundreds of words I'd never heard, but I was getting exposure to them. That's the difference. I was exposing myself to stuff I didn't understand. And guess what? After a few months of doing that every night, my brain had acclimated and I spoke Spanish. Okay? That's a beautiful analogy for what learning should look like in the modern world. It shouldn't be take some, let's say you're at level 5, go to level 5.1, 5.2. No, jump to level 6. Okay. Jump up there. And that sort of hectic feeling of like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not in my comfort zone and I'm really outside of my range of knowledge. That's a beautiful thing.
Immerse yourself in what's difficult.
Immerse yourself in what's difficult, and do not let an expensive institution stop you from doing that.
That's great. Well, I think this has been a fantastic podcast about, the difference between a normal 4-year education and, what is going on in the modern world. So, dude, this has been quite the time, and we're excited for the next one. Hopefully the listeners are now rethinking, hey, is this 4-year for me? Should I go be a loser, or should I go and look at alternative options? So yeah, well, thank you guys. We'll be back with one very soon, and have a great rest of y'all's day.
Yep. Good stuff. Thanks, y'all.